Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the one-man nation. Today's episode, we're looking at Ibrahim alayhi salam as a visionary. A visionary is somebody who doesn't just look at the short term and what they can achieve in the next 3 months or 6 months, but they look at the long term. What can they achieve in the next 30 years or even after their own lifetime? It may not be something that they're working on their own. It may be a group effort, but they set in stone a plan, a goal, a target that requires concerted group effort to eventually reach that goal. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests Ibrahim alayhi salam with one of the most difficult tests, He tells him to take his wife Hajar and his son Ismail and to go from the Levant, from Ash-Sham where he was, all the way to Mecca. To go to this empty, deserted land and to build the Kaaba over there. To leave them there because one day he's going to build the house of Allah over there. Ibrahim alayhi salam complies, trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. He goes and leaves his wife and his son over there. As he turns around to walk away, Hajar asks him, "Where are you going? Allahu amaraka bihada? Did Allah tell you to do this?" And he says, "Na'am, yes." She replies, "Idhan la yudayi'una." Allah will never waste us. Allah will never neglect us. If He commanded something, there's got to be a reason, a wisdom behind it. When Ibrahim alayhi salam drops off his wife and his son, Ibrahim alayhi salam begins to make a dua. He says, "Rabbana inni askantu min dhurriyyati biwadin ghayri dhi zar'in 'inda baytika al-muharram." O Allah, O my Master, O my Lord, I have settled some of my progeny, some of my future generation in a barren, deserted land with no vegetation, but it is next to your sacred house. At this point in time, Ibrahim alayhi salam has not built the Kaaba. There's a plan to build the Kaaba. At this point in time, he's just leaving his wife and his son in an empty land. But when he makes dua to Allah, he says, "I've left them in an empty land, but it's next to your sacred house," even though there's no house at that time, there's no Kaaba. But he can see it developing. In his dua, Ibrahim asks Allah, "Rabbi ja'al hadha baladan amina." Oh Allah, make this a safe civilization, a safe populated zone. When Ibrahim alayhi salam makes dua to Allah at this point in time, straight after making this statement, he asks Allah for 3 things. First, he says, "Rabbana liyuqimu as-salah." Oh Allah, make my children, make my progenies establish salah. Let them be consistent, steadfast with it. Let them focus on it. You'd think that the first thing, if you, for example, were left in a no man's land, the first thing you would beg Allah for would be food, drink and survival. But the first thing he asks Allah for is salah. Because that is their source of survival in the afterlife. And Allah will take care of them in this life. He says, "رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ فَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ." The second thing he asks Allah for is, "Oh Allah, make people inclined, feel a sense of closeness to them." So let other people come and settle in this area because of their closeness and their inclination towards my family. Then the third thing he asks for, وَارْزُقْهُم مِّنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. Finally, he asks Allah for food, for sustenance, for rizq, for his family so that they are grateful. Ibrahim alayhi salam's priorities are number 1, salah, number 2, community, and number 3, rizq, sustenance, food and drink. Whereas for us, it's usually the opposite way around. We're most concerned about our livelihood. And secondly, we're concerned about our culture, our community, the people around us. And lastly, we're concerned about our salah. Yet Ibrahim alayhi salam, even though there's nothing in this area, he sees the potential for what it can become one day. He sees this house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala built, this flourishing community, this balad that grows over the years, and eventually people coming here on pilgrimage. When Allah commands Ibrahim alayhi salam to announce the Hajj, وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ يَأْتِينَ مِن كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ. He says, call out for the Hajj. And people will come to you from every corner of the globe, on every kind of beast. At that point in time when Allah tells him that you're going to build this Kaaba, there's going to be this huge community, people all over the world are going to come here, Ibrahim a.s. is looking at an empty desert. But a visionary is somebody who can see an empty desert, but plan to put the seeds in so that 50 years down the line, there's a forest of trees producing fruit. A visionary is somebody who doesn't just look at today, but thinks about planting seeds for tomorrow. A visionary is somebody who may not see the fruits of their labor in this life, but maybe their children or their grandchildren will see the fruits of their labor. Ibrahim alayhi salam isn't alive today to see the millions of people who go on Hajj. He isn't alive today to see the fruits of his labor as it's carried out across the world. But he had a vision. He planted the seed. Until today, when we go on Hajj, we all say, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Oh Allah, we are responding your call, we are here. We are responding to the call of Ibrahim when he called out, when Allah told him, call out, Adhin fin nas, announce the Hajj, announce the pilgrimage, and let people come and visit Allah's house. What are some action points we can take from this for our daily lives? One of the most important action points is that in our lives, we should try and volunteer our time outside of work, outside of survival, outside of family life. We should volunteer our time to a project, a cause, an institution that will outlive us. Because you and I are going to be 6 foot under when we pass away. When we die, the angel of death comes. We will have no more good deeds to do. We will regret every moment of this life that was wasted. And yet there are only 3 things that can continue earning us good deeds after we pass away. And one of those things is sadaqatun jariyah, an ongoing charity. So make sure that while you are here in this life, be a visionary. Think long term. What seed can you plant? What project can you contribute your time, your efforts, your talents, your energy to that will outlive you? A hospital, a school, a masjid, a center of Islamic learning, a waqf, an endowment, an orphanage. What are you going to establish on this earth? What are you going to contribute to this ummah? Because this ummah is waiting for visionaries like you. Barakallahu feekum, and I'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.